is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 156. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E. Midweek here, Austin, Texas. Full slate of MLS games spanning Wednesday and Thursday night. Luckily, Austin FC on a bye, but plenty to discuss here today. But I'll ask you, as I always do, how you feeling, my friend?
I'm great, man. I'm excited. All that sad shit that we had to get through on the last episode, it is gone. It is out the window. No more of that pouting. No more of that fucking woe is me shit. We're back. Saturday, we got a big matchup. I'm ready for it. I hope the boys are ready for it for sure. We need a bounce back game. Got to see a lot of things from this team in regard to mentality, body language, leadership, all that good stuff. And I'm expecting them to respond. So in the confines of Q2, which has been good to us this year. So I'm ready, man. I'm excited about this game. Feels like we haven't been there in a minute. So I'm excited.
Yeah. One time we have stepped inside Q2, you and I, since May. Man, that is about to change because I think we don't even leave the state of Texas, Austin FC, unless you make it out of that League's Cup group stage. So let's not kid ourselves. Mid-August will be the next time this team leaves the state of Texas to play a competitive match, unless something crazy happens. So yeah, we'll preview the NYCFC match coming up on Saturday. We've got a couple of pieces of news, last business day, and the nonsense. But wanted to take care of some housekeeping things, in particular, one item here at the top, E. And so if you out there, longtime listener of the North End Podcast, or maybe you're just joining us here in the last couple weeks and months this season, we were a little bit late to the Austin FC independent media space, right? Definitely inspired by the likes of Moon Tower Soccer and The Striker and We Are Austin TV and the litany of other outlets that, surround this club. Back in August 22, 1 episode per week, right? 2 episodes per week starting in 2023. We've kind of evolved our content more and more as more and more of you have tuned in and started to support the show, right? We started with just the Twitter account. Then we started putting episodes in video form on the YouTube. I went back and looked. That was episode 39. And of course that gave way, right? We love to fire up the live stream when breaking news happens. Those platforms for instant digest, like schedule release, draft picks, player movement. And then of course, like some of our silly stuff, right? With the best ball drafts with some of those podcasts we mentioned, our friends there. We've also used the video component to share like our growing knowledge of the ins and outs of the MLS rules and regulations, with the idea that the more a fan can know about the game and a team, the more they'll love it, as is kind of our working theory here, right? So we expanded our social media, Instagram, Threads. We've got some fancy graphics that we've integrated this year into a lot of our content. So really all of that to say this, right? And I guess I don't want to leave out the northendpodcast.com, right? You get weekly match articles, picks, and look, as we speak, if you have been so bold as to tail us on the MLS picks, you're turning a profit. So, of course, making these, cap and roster spreadsheets available to all Austin FC fans for free, right? All of that long-winded to say we love doing this, but it can be a lot, and we are investing, some of our own capital into our little project here. So all of that to say this, we were recently contacted by a podcast network called Bleav, which is spelled BLEAV. This podcast network covers mostly American professional sports and some pop culture content. They've got hundreds of shows throughout every sport in the United States. And one of their goals is having a show for every professional team in the States. They've got a channel on Fubo TV. All of their NFL pods are on Sirius XM. Most of their NFL, NBA, and MLB shows have former pros from those respective teams. So pretty cool stuff from what we could tell. They reached out to us asking if we would be willing to join their network as their Austin FC show as they grow their presence in the soccer space, both for MLS and the English Premier League. So we looked into everything they've got going on over there. And honestly, I think speak for both of us, pretty impressed with like the variety and the depth of the content that they host there. And to that end, we have entered into an agreement with the Bleav Podcast Network. And there are a couple things that we want to, or I guess that we consider important to communicate to our listeners from this. First of all, and I think most importantly, the content of the North End podcast, right? What we discuss, how we discuss it, not going to change. We have kept 100% of our creative control, our ownership of the show in this agreement. But second, and what will affect both E and I and you as a listener, is that you're going to start to hear ads on the North End podcast. You're going to hear them before the intro music plays, after the outro ends, and likely in the middle of our episodes at times as well. So as an avid podcast listener, shout out to any of my 2X sickos out there. I understand how annoying, we understand, right, how annoying those ads can be, but we've long discussed between the two of us potential ways that we could monetize the show in some form to kind of just get back the financial effort that we put into this, just kind of, be even at the end of the day.
Yep.
And of course, and there's also like something that factored into our talks, right, between you and I was there is already some great premium Austin FC content, whether you're paying for a Patreon for one of our fellow podcasts, you're subscribed to a Substack like Verde All Day. We've had friends of the show ask us how they can support more, or certain people tell us start your own Patreon. Also, I've been like, that's all very, very flattering. And maybe something like that comes down the road. But we think for right now, this is a win-win. So every time you press download on an episode of the North End podcast, you'll be supporting the show. If you watch on YouTube and you want to support the show, just go to your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, whatever, right? As soon as you press that download button, nothing else to subscribe to, nothing's going behind a paywall. The more people who download the show in audio format, the more we'll be able to keep expanding our content here. Of course, we've got a few ideas in the hopper at all times. So it's a way for us to continue to do what we do, and important to us how we do it, while hopefully increasing the reach of the show, getting, a little bit of that financial aspect out of our project that we put in. Don't know exactly how it's going to sound until it happens, but to my understanding, it's coming either in this episode or this coming Sundays. Any feedback from our listeners, we are certainly welcome to it. And I guess I will end this little diatribe from the bottom of our hearts. We appreciate everybody who tunes in, listens, and supports the show. It means the world to us. Everybody we've met, befriended throughout the last couple years. It's been awesome. And just, this is definitely a milestone for us in this project, and, looking forward to what comes next.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said there. Initially when they reached out to us and we had our first discussions about it, we definitely had some concerns in regard to, what we were going to be able to do, if we were going to be able to continue cursing, doing our thing, keeping this podcast weird, for lack of a better slogan there. But after some further research and everything like that, it seemed like a really good idea. And, I just grateful for everyone who does support us right now. And if you could take that extra step going forward, just hit that download button. Doesn't matter if you want to watch us on the YouTube so you can see the hairstyles or the haircuts coming in, and then go ahead and get the downloads in there after that. Just very grateful and very appreciative for the opportunity with Bleav as well. So it's exciting, man. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be a full-time permanent thing going forward, that this is how it's always going to be, but we wanted to be able to have some sort of say in getting back into the neutral territory in regard to the expenses that we put into this podcast outside of just our own time. So thank you to everyone who supports, and I'm excited for it, man. And it should be fun. And if you get a chance to check out Bleav and their other stuff and their podcast, they got some really interesting stuff, pods out there. And like you mentioned, a lot of ex-pros, which I thought was really cool and something that was a big selling point for me. But we're not going to change. I think that's the one thing that I want to try to communicate as much as possible, is that this isn't going to change. We're still going to be doing our fun stuff, our goofy stuff. But it's just a good opportunity.
Yeah, no question. And I do think it also will enhance our content to be part of this network where once they build out podcasts for all 30 teams, very easy exchange of guest spots and things like that to be able to get maybe a more clear view of some of our opponents going forward, outside of, what we bring with our match previews every week. So excited for it, looking forward to it. And again, shout out to all of you that tune in and listen and support. So we can put that in the rear view here and move into the actual nitty gritty of today's episode. Look, download the podcast, rate, review, and subscribe. If you're on the YouTube, subscribe, notification bell, hit the like button, all that good stuff. Wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. It is Wednesday, and in about 4 hours, there will be a welcome party at the Fairmont for Mikkel Desler, who arrived in Austin either early this morning or last night. Club putting out, snippets similar to what we saw for Usman last week. Behind the scenes on his first day, in and out of the performance center, going around town, taking pictures in his new kit, etc. So exciting times. 7 p.m. Again, this podcast is going to come out probably an hour before then, so it's not like anybody's going to hear this and be able to scoot on down there. But I do like to see the 7 p.m. time for this gathering. Many more fans are going to be able to make it out there rather than the 4 p.m. on a Tuesday from last week. So, and ultimately, the most important thing, Desler's here, baby. That's 2 out of 3. Now we're just waiting for Svatak.
It's awesome, man. I love the Fairmont. Oh,
yeah,
the pool there is fantastic. Someone did steal my shirt there the last time I was there, and took my shirt off, went in the pool, and someone swiped it.
Was it a good shirt?
It was a great shirt. It was like a $60, $70 shirt. It was a great shirt. But I do love the Fairmont. More than that, I love Desler being here, arriving. Had some good conversations in the comment section after the last episode in regard to the future of this team and how it's going to look going forward, and that help is on the way, and the disarray that we were in for so long with the roster and where our money was tied up is slowly being unraveled, and these players are starting to come in, and it's just a really exciting time. And if you're making it out there, that's fantastic. I know there's going to be plenty of sickos out there ready to cheer on Desler. And yeah, man, it's just happy he's here. And we've been waiting for this moment for a while in regard to these reinforcements arriving at some point in time, because we knew they were coming, and that is right on the doorstep here. So welcome, Mikkel, right?
Mikkel. Yeah.
Okay.
When he did his little intro social media video,
yeah,
he said it so fast. Everybody else I was like, "What did he say? How are we supposed to say this man's name?"
We'll stick with Desler for now.
Yeah, we'll hear him tonight, I'm sure. So maybe we'll have further clarification there.
Yeah,
come Sunday's episode. Speaking of our other new boy that already is here, Osman Bukari. First practice on Tuesday. And by practice, we mean individual workout. Coach Wolf at media availability this morning said that Osman's been out there. He has now used, by my count, 3 different nicknames for this man.
Okay.
He said Buka, he said Buki, and he said Ozzy.
Wow.
In 3 different press conferences so far. So I'm
challenging me.
Yeah, right.
Challenging me for the nickname title already.
It's coming for your throne, man. But individual workouts said today that he hopes that Osman will join the team training in the next few days, which I am interpreting as next week. Because if you're not in the team training already, Thursday, Friday, we're getting ready for a game. I imagine there's not a ton in those walkthroughs for somebody who's not going to play. So looking for him as soon as possible, of course, but I expect a Monday or a Tuesday content drop with Osman in, some of those drills with the guys.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's just been exciting to see him on the old Instagram there for Austin FC, and, double tapping that and being like, let's go, man. And like we said before, we would assume that he's probably in great shape still, probably very fit in regard to coming in and being game ready. And let's just hit the ground running with him, man. I'm really excited about him.
international updates here for our two boys out at the Copa America. Group stage finished up on Tuesday night. And of course, both final group stage games for Venezuela and Danny, Costa Rica, and Julio took place at Q2 Stadium. Last night, Costa Rica and Paraguay. Costa Rica scores twice in the first 7 minutes, holds on for a 2-1 victory. But ultimately, and I will say, we did get the first appearance of Julio in the tournament, coming in 88th minute, kind of token, appearance there at Q2 in front of the home fans. I thought that was great. And again, where's that for Danny at Q2 the other night, up 3-0, nothing else to worry about. No Danny nod there, but Costa Rica does bow out. They finished with 4 points in their group. I mean, that group, Colombia and Brazil. I mean, getting 4 points is pretty darn good.
Honestly,
in my book.
I was going to say that they had a respectable showing for sure. They drew Brazil, right?
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Julio at Q2 last night, Julio at practice this morning. I imagine not doing a ton there, but was out there on the pitch participating, according to some who were at the media availability. Venezuela, though, of course, they finish undefeated in the group stage. As we were talking about on Sunday, they will make it into the knockout rounds. They will take on Canada on Friday, 8 p.m. And so, again, like I mentioned last time, like in a perfect world, in a perfect Austin FC world, we have him back here this Saturday. He serves the suspension, and he's available next Saturday at home against Seattle. But even if Venezuela makes it past Canada here, which I think they have a pretty good chance of doing, they will meet the winner of Ecuador and Argentina, which, again, you would think is the defending World Cup champions, and then a tall task to defeat the Argentinians. That match, should it happen, that matchup would happen on the 9th, which is next Tuesday. So assuming that Venezuela don't have the ultimate Copa America Cinderella story here and defeat what you would think is a matchup against Argentina on the 9th, they will be knocked out by next Tuesday. If that came to pass, Danny can be on the bench to serve his, or not on the bench, but active to serve his suspension this coming Saturday, or 2 Saturdays from now, and then be available against Dallas in that Copa Tejas clincher that you and I and some buddies will be traveling to. So that is why I have very much keyed in on that date as being the date where, if we don't have Danny, I'm going to feel a lot worse driving to and probably from that game 2 Wednesdays from now. But again, hopefully Danny, again, the experience is great for the kid regardless, but I would love to see him out there in one of these knockout matches coming up. So be tuned in on Friday for sure, 8 p.m. against Canada.
Honestly, it should be a pretty good game. That Canadian team is solid and has some names. But yes, we're just hoping, would love to see Danny get some time, ultimately stay healthy, get him back here and get the suspension served, and then get him in this lineup, because I mean, we just need him so badly.
Yep. Venezuela, slight favorites in Vegas right now over Canada. Of course, Argentina, heavy favorites over Ecuador. So we'll talk more. We can talk about that result, of course, on Sunday. Let's talk about everybody's favorite team here. Let's preview the NYCFC match here coming up Saturday, 7:30 p.m. at Q2 Stadium. This is the first time that Austin FC and New York City FC have met in a competitive match. We have seen these guys twice before through various means, because they have played 2 friendlies in the last calendar year. First, behind closed doors, when both teams were already knocked out of the Leagues Cup last year. That was a 2-1 NYCFC win from the sources that told us, that snuck a little video of the Austin goal, which I believe was scored by CJ Fodre in that scrimmage. Then most recently in the preseason this year, also closed to the public. That was a 3-2 Austin FC victory in regulation and a 4-4 tally after the clubs played that additional 30-minute period that you get, kind of customary in those preseason games. But by my count, NYCFC represents the only MLS club that Austin FC has never played a competitive fixture against. Chicago Fire is the only other team, I believe, that we have not played in the league. But of course, we went out at the hands of the Chicago Fire at home in the Open Cup last year. So this will complete the cycle for us, as it were.
Yeah, this is actually pretty exciting to get them on the books here and the opportunity to have a perfect record.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. 3 points per game after this Saturday.
Let's go, baby. Dominate
NYC. So NYCFC is owned by City Football Group. So you've got some Roto ties there. You've got Claudio Reyna ties. He was the GM at NYCFC for a time. But they had a down year last year, man. They were 11th in the East, 22nd in the Supporters Shield standings. That was their worst finish in club history. The previous worst was their expansion season, 2015. They were 8th in the East, 17th in the Shield standings. So regardless, a far cry from their form in 2021, right? Our first season as fans of Austin FC, or when Austin FC started playing, this was the champion, MLS Cup champion, NYCFC. So again, this is a club with a lot of resources, right? Belonging to that City Football Group network. And things were looking up for them to start this year, right? Some of the big names that they brought in, right? Jovan Mijatovic, or I don't know if it's Jovan or Jovan Mijatovic, 18-year-old striker, $8.6 million transfer fee, former teammate. They bought him from Red Star, so former teammate of Osman Bukari. $8.6 million transfer fee for an 18-year-old. That's, that indicates something. Then they also brought in Agustin Ojeda, who, like Mijatovic, occupies a U22 initiative slot. They also brought on former Mönchengladbach winger Hannes Wolf, 25-year-old winger there. So things were looking up. Then the season started. Rough start for the Pigeons. They lost their first 3 league matches by an aggregate score of 5-1. They secured just 1 victory in their first 7. Mijatovic had trouble, I think, both acclimating to, and this is one thing I was thinking about as I was going through the preview today. I think I have watched more NYCFC than any other team outside of Austin this year, because they have had, I think, 3 of the 5 Friday games in the league so far this year. Of course, they play their home matches at Yankee Stadium and City Field, depending on which of the baseball teams is out of town that week. So I think that's also a big factor in them playing some of these Friday matches. But yeah, so I have watched this team. Mijatovic had trouble staying healthy at the beginning. I think he's had trouble acclimating to his new surroundings. As, 18-year-old kid coming across the pond. Yeah, I totally get it. Ojeda played 30 total minutes over their first 5 games. Hannes Wolf didn't register a goal contribution until late April. So, like, as much as we're in this Austin FC bubble and we hear a lot, rightfully, about Coach Wolf being on the hot seat, the first coach that I heard from national pundits was Nick Cushing after this kind of dismal start here for NYC. But then something clicked. Right, kind of at the same time, we hinted at NYC being the only team during that hot stretch for Austin earlier this year. They were the team consistently. It was like, well, we would be the hottest team in the league, but the Pigeons are over there reeling off 8 wins in 9 league matches between April 13th and May 31st. So that catapulted this team into the top 4 of the East, and they have cooled off a little bit lately. Lost 3 of their last 4, but 2 of those losses against Columbus and LA Galaxy. So they are playing the top of the league and being competitive in those matches, certainly not getting run over, not by a long shot. So main catalyst here, unsurprisingly, DP Santiago Rodriguez. He's got 15 goal contributions in his 20 matches played so far this season. 15 contributions that's good enough for 11th league-wide. And as you can imagine, the names above him, pretty much all of the MVP candidates. So when he gets on the ball this Saturday, right, this is the guy that you should be clinching the hardest when he is coming full speed. He's going to be trying to set up guys like Monsef Brakar, who has had issues putting the ball in the back of the net. I remember writing up some of the MLS pick articles back near the end of April, and Brakar was like leading or second in the league in terms of shots and shots on target, but had no goals. He still only got 2 on the year, but Bacrar is the guy. I don't know if anybody will remember this from the preseason match. We turned it over in our own half, and he scored from midfield because Stuver was all the way out of his net. So he scored at Q2 in the calendar year 2024, and hopefully it's just that one time, of course, Wolf and Ojeda have come along nicely. Alonso Martinez, who's another forward, kind of second striker type there, he's also been really good for this team. So last thing I'll say here, they do play tonight. We mentioned full MLS slate Wednesday and Thursday. So they take on CF Montreal tonight. So I think there's certainly some potential for rotation in New York's squad when lineups come out Saturday evening. But I also think this is a deep and complete enough roster right now. Just one player on their injury report coming into tonight. That's Malachi Jones. He also scored on us back in that extra period in February. But he broke his leg in their last game. Nasty collision with Mason Stidehar. Both guys broke their legs. But he's the only guy on their injury report. So to me, like, they have 8 homegrowns on their supplemental roster. Like I said, a complete roster here that has, again, had, 5, 6 more off seasons to build out this roster. And, of course, the financial backing of City Football Group. So no matter who's on the pitch for New York on Saturday, we're going to have our hands full, trying to handle this team. Rotated, heat, whatever. This is a talented squad.
Yes, they're quite talented. You did an excellent job of breaking that down. Santiago Rodriguez is just a great player. Like he's been fun to watch for some period of time now, and it's just like, I look at them having to play tonight, and it's like, yes, that's like a glimmer of hope. It is a slight advantage for us, but as you mentioned, the depth that they have, the quality of players that they have, they should be able to make up for this Wednesday game. But we'll take anything we can get at this point in time.
Well, let's talk about us here.
Yeah.
Coach, again, media availability this morning. One of the questions, of course, one of the first questions that comes up, Diego Rubio, suspended, right, on yellow card accumulation. So what's the plan with Giassi Zardes? Who is the backup? Coach hinted that he expects, I wasn't even so much of a hint. He just kind of flat out said, I expect 90 minutes out of Giassi Zardes here on Saturday. And yeah, I hear the noise you're making. I made a similar one when I heard him say that on the press conference recording. And he kind of, I would say what was more of a hint was he mentioned that maybe CJ Fodre would have the leg up, being a potential backup there at the 9. But it sounds like plan is, Giassi, you're going out there playing the full 90.
That is not the best thing I've ever heard, for sure. But it would be a great time for G to open his goal scoring account this season, and we desperately need it. I'm just so disappointed in Diego, man. Like if you look back at the yellows he's gotten, like how many could he have just avoided by not
at least 2.
At least, just like by keeping your mouth shut, having some composure, and maybe just like not crossing some proverbial line with these refs where you're saying something absolutely terrible to them. So this is just a bad. I mean, again, we talked about it at length in the last episode. It's just a really horrible time for someone to get suspended on a stupid call that he's arguing that was clearly a foul that got called, and like it's just it hurts us, man. So hopefully, G, man, I'm hoping that he can open up this goal scoring account here and just give us something. He's sitting on 2 assists this season, albeit they were very nice assists, but it's just we need something from him. We have to, and he's never going to be able to justify that $1 million price tag that he comes in at, but he's got to give us something here. As far as the rest of the squad is looking, I'm assuming we're going to have to go back to JoJo, right?
I would like to see him after we saw what the midfield looked like last week with Ring and Owen back there. One thing I wanted to mention about Diego too, and why it is even more disappointing than I felt on Sunday when we recorded. If he gets out of last game without a card, good behavior. Would have gone off accumulation. Yeah. He had 4 straight with no yellows.
And there's no way he doesn't know that. Like there's no way they didn't express that. Like, and I'm so disappointed in him, man. Like you just really hurt us.
Yeah, I mean, because he was already on caution after, the 6th game of the season or something like that. And then he went 7 games without a card, got the good behavior bonus, and then 2 games later picked one up, goes 4 without one. But here we are. You
Mm.
can't get it back now.
Yep.
So I second everything you have there about Zardes. How about the back line, Julio Cascante? I would expect him to be available. Do you think? I guess 2 questions. Do you think he will start? And ultimately, do you want him to start?
I want him to start. Yes.
Okay. And I know who you're going to say for.
Yes, you do. Leo. Like I said, without Diego here, without Danny, we need to be able to generate offense, which is odd to say from like we're analyzing bringing in a starting center back here, but he does bring that element to our team, and if again, we will take anything we can get at this point in time. So I am hoping Julio starts. Like you mentioned, he got the kind of, tip of the hat.
He's played 2 minutes the last month.
So he should be fresh, which I think is really good. So I will go on record in saying I do think he starts, and I personally want him to start.
Okay, I would say I want him to start. I'm not confident he does. Just being out of the team for the last few weeks, I could see just kind of a bench appearance here, and then maybe coming in, hopefully not out of necessity. But yeah, I think we keep the same center back pairing here. Because again, like, it looks a lot worse visually than it does on the stats, right? And you have to factor both things in. But like 4 shots on target over the last 3 games, right?
Yeah.
Like but Leo, he did have the giveaway.
I was going to say
on Saturday.
Is that in your put your coach hat on here?
Okay.
Is that a benchable offense? To me, it is. Like, we've been talking about accountability and holding people responsible for their play, for their actions, for their body language, their demeanor and everything. And I know that Leo doesn't have all of that other kind of shit going on.
He doesn't.
That he does not do that other stuff. But like you asked me on the last episode, if this was uncharacteristic for him for having this type of turnover, and I disagreed with you. I thought that this is something that he has. It hasn't been overly prevalent, but there's plenty of plays that stick out in my mind where it's just like he's been very sloppy with the ball. Sure. And that turnover he had was it led to a goal. It was terrible.
Yeah. I do feel like, and again, I'm just trying to reach back into the recesses here. I feel like specifically in the south end at Q2, there's been at least one other wayward pass that, like, I think we got away with. Like, we didn't end up getting punished by getting scored on, but
there's definitely
I do not have a problem. I do not have a problem with Julio coming in for him.
And I'm like right there as well, because I do think that Leo had been tracking and playing better up until we have this disastrous moment in the last matchup. But when we're trying any sort of way to generate some offense, I just think Julio gives us, however small of an upgrade over Leo in that regard, and we're gonna need it.
I guess say this, and you can take this as a positive or negative. I don't think it changes my mood, my expectation for this game, no matter what combination of our 3 center backs start. So
I agree.
Another thing that I caught that I didn't really see reported anywhere. Coach mentioned they've got 14 healthy field players in training today. They had 6 ATX2 guys there. And he did say, quote, "We brought in Ruben as well." So Ruben Bonachera is a fullback for FCito, as Kolmanich had a bit of a problem. So it sounds to me like Jean having some issues, hopefully not with the hamstring again, right? Isn't that what he pulled his hamstring earlier this season? But maybe you're without him as well this weekend. And again, FCito plays on Friday. So I guess we can talk about that dynamic as well as we go here. But I thought that was just a little bit interesting. Kolmanich, again, I don't want to see him start or anything, but in a pinch, he's nice to have on the bench if things go sideways.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone is nice to have on the bench at this point in time, given how thin we are. But that it is concerning, because if you're having to bring up Ruben there, it just doesn't give me a lot of confidence that Kolmanich is going to be ready to roll.
Yeah.
Or at
Anything?
100%, really, you know, and like you said, just being able to have some sort of body, fresh legs to get in there if we need it. You know, you can call on him.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned, man.
Anything else for you on this one? Because I'm ready to tell you how much I think Austin FC is winning by this Saturday.
Okay. I'm still, you know, I don't want to throw out the Owen Alex pairing in the midfield. I don't know if I'm ready to just completely write it off. Like this last game was it was just so odd after the LAFC game and the Minnesota game, just to see that level of frustration and just and whining and moaning from the guys. It was just so strange because it felt like, again, we're sitting here. Hey, bro, we're playing with house money. We got one of the worst teams in the league lining up against us. Like, this is a huge opportunity, and it just unraveled so quick. And I can't find any sort of real reason for it, because it wasn't like we were generating all kinds of chances to start that game and like not getting, you know, or having some unfortunate balls like not go our way. So I was just really confused as to why it fell apart so fast. So this game is incredibly intriguing to me. And as I mentioned at the start of this episode, like, I do expect these guys to bounce back, particularly from like an attitude standpoint. And I think that this week of training and practice, I hope that the coaching staff was really on top of these dudes and being like, you know, we got to right this ship right now. Because I've seen some stuff come out as of late about our percentages, our chances, our odds of making the playoffs right now, and it's dropping quite fast, and it's getting to the point where it's like this is critical territory, and to keep our head above water before we can get these fresh reinforcements in. This is a game at home where we need 3 points, in my opinion.
Yeah, no question. You know, I know we give Johan some guff when we see some of those like unnecessary fouls, right? And we've talked at length about how we perceive, you know, the lack of offensive threat, that drop off that happens when he's there in his defensive midfield position. But in this one, man, I want some Punisher. I want him to go, and I want Santi Rodriguez on the ground once every 10, 15 minutes. Let him know you're there. If he picks up a yellow in this one, fine. I expect Danny to be back soon. And then I do not expect Johan to be in the starting lineup when Danny is healthy. So I would like to see him. I don't disagree with your take that I think the Ring Wolf Seba midfield is not something you can't go back to in the future. It's just not what I prefer to see here. Maybe it's just recency bias because I was super hot. I was super high on that trio there with no Danny as something we should try. So maybe I'm just completely just whiplashing the other direction, but that's how I'm feeling right now.
I mean, I think you hit it on the head on the last episode where you said if Owen's not willing to do those things to advance the ball, then what's the point, you know? And Owen, as we have seen, has been very solid in being a utility guy that we can bring in and kind of move around and give us some different options, some different looks to put him in the lineup at different positions. So while I still am of the camp that I think that there is something to be had with those three, JoJo at the start is not going to make me feel too bad.
Well, and Owen's just been better this year for our offensive connectivity. He's been better in a forward position because we talked about multiple times the progressive passes received, right? Him being kind of that hub and him having a little bit of hold up play himself, especially when he's been out there on the wings. So I think for me, you can get Johan back in there, Alex and Seba, the dual 10s, 8s, whatever you want to call it. Give me an Owen Wolf start on the wing here, opposite Hodder.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. I'm okay with that too. I think that again just raises our talent floor because Owen is just a better player than Ethan Finley. Yeah,
at this point. And again, it's just trying to call it like we see it. You know, father time comes for everybody. And again, I think Ethan has played a lot better over the last month than you saw in the sparse sample size we had over kind of the first half of the season.
Absolutely.
Give me a 1-0 Austin victory here at home. Obviously, NYC can certainly score. They've got a lot of talent in the attack. But again, our defense, especially with the amount of pressure they've been in, we talked about 80+% field tilt last Saturday. Still just 2 shots on target, right? 4 shots on target over the last 3. So I expect our defense to limit NYCFC's true, right, chances, those high probability. Like, you can't score if you don't get the ball on target. So I have another clean sheet here for Stuver and the defense, and I have us getting one. And then, you know, as much as people hate it, and we don't like it when it's, you know, raising our blood pressure to watch this team try to bunker and really hold on to a 1-goal lead. But that's how I see it playing out. What do you got? How much is Austin FC winning by on Saturday?
I'm right there with you. 1-0. I think that's the only way that this team is going to be able to win this game. If they score, I don't forecast us being able to put 2 on the board, particularly with how we looked in this last matchup. And I just need Seba to get right, man. Got to get his head right. Hopefully he rebounds and is just able to do his thing, because we definitely need it. I know that it'll be a welcome sight for a lot of those guys to be back in the queue there. So let's do this, man. 1-0. We've joined forces on this.
All right. Let's get into last business day here, Ian. Again, we mentioned on Sunday's episode, we finished recording right as that match was kicking off. So a little bit of a recap here against Sporting KC 2. First of all, from watching that game, man, large traveling contingent there at Rock Chalk Park in Lawrence from the first team match the night before. And I think a couple folks also stayed out there for, I think the U.S. match was out there on Monday in Arrowhead, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Kind of a triple header for some Austin fans, which that would have been a heck of a trip.
Yeah.
But you can basically only hear our fans on this broadcast, so drowning out any potential of a rusty swing. It was fun to have that kind of hometown feel, even though we were watching a road match. First half hour or so of this one, I thought Sporting really controlled the pace of the game, and then in the 25th minute, I guess I should also say I thought Austin was nice and compact, like how we see both the first and the second team kind of operate on that end. But nice little give and go here in the 25th minute at the edge of the box. Beto Avila, who I believe leads them in goals now, he had been out hurt. So he actually pushed Pau Vidal to the bench in this one. Ian, Beto Avila bangs home the opening goal off a little half volley. And I think prior to that give and go, defense just gets completely split up the middle here and really opened things up there for the first goal of the game. So I imagine there's already been some film watched by the second team here on this little breakdown.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, like, God, dude, this team is just in the danger zone. Like, it is. We've been asking and kind of just pushing forward, being like, man, we need to find some points here. And this was not the way to do it.
27th minute, though, Austin coming right back. It's like sometimes we see with the first team, right? You take that first goal against, and then all of a sudden we've got some life offensively. So there's a long ball over the top here to Jimmy down the right, and he gets past his defender, charging into the area, trying to find Sebastian Pignot near the middle of the area, probably right at the top of the 6-yard box. But SKC defender tries to poke it out for a corner, ends up poking it into his own net. So own goal, level again 2 minutes later. We'll take it.
We'll take it, brother.
32nd minute. Another nervy moment here for Austin. Great cross in from the right by the Sporting 2 player right to the feet of Cam Habibullah. And I thought Allstrup did a good job here to get down to the ground quickly. Habibullah scuffed this one just a little bit, but, little miss-hit tap-in, still kept it out. Good job there by Allstrup, but then my feelings on him turned around right at the end of the half here because 3rd minute of stoppage time. Avila gets loose on the break, and man, he was a menace last night. I want to say he was hurt for the first match because I did not remember him at all heading into this one, but loose on the break here. Irvin Torres in pursuit, and I thought Torres did a fine job defensively, kind of pushing him towards the end line, but from an extremely tough angle. Avila beats Allstrup near post, and this, if you go watch the replay, I thought this was poor goalkeeping by Allstrup, like to get beat at the near post from this angle. But also credit to Avila.
Yeah, no, he was on top of his game, and I also do not remember him. We've sung the praises of Vidal
Yeah.
You know, every time we've seen this Sporting Kansas City 2 team, and for him to be able to push Vidal out is, you know, impressive to him. But Alstrup has just had these kind of moments, you know, and it's just the inexperience, being a young keeper, things that he's going to have to learn and get better at. Unfortunately, it's just, this is, like I said, this is the critical zone for this team, and we just can't be having these goals late and, you know, in the half stoppage time here where you're giving up a goal and just putting yourself on the back foot once again.
So we'll jump all the way to second half stoppage time. 2-1 scoreline holds, but then in the second minute of stoppage time, Sheikh Touré, again, we pulling out all the stops here. We got about 2 minutes left until the final whistle. So Sheikh decides to pull up from deep, about 25 yards out, takes a deflection off a Sporting defender, catches the keeper leaning to his left. It trickles to his right into the net for the equalizer there. So we do go for the fourth consecutive match to a penalty shootout to decide who gets that extra point. And then Vidal into the game here for the shootout. Steps up first for this, I think, the second time this season. Alstrup guesses right, but Vidal, the big bastard that he is, enough power on that to get it past Alstrup. Same with Cam Habibullah on the third kick. Alstrup guesses right, but still just a well-placed penalty. Alonso Ramirez was our third taker, and he sends the keeper wrong way. You know, we've seen him kind of take those little stutter steps, kick little, you know, get the keeper to fall and just kind of roll it into the opposite side of the net. So he executes that up until the shot. It pings off the post and back out. And Sporting makes all 5 of theirs, so they get the extra point. Austin comes home with 1, setting up a match on Friday against Real Monarchs, who beat the shit out of us. That was the RSL just franchise beatdown of Austin a couple weeks back. Monarchs coming to town on Friday. And I'm going to pull the must-win lever here, because FCito, 15 points from their 14 matches. Real Monarchs is 1 point below us in the table. And as things stand here today on Wednesday, FCito, 8 points back of the final playoff spot. A team that you need to get revenge against after they, I think it was 4-0 in that game. Might have been 4-1 late on. They're below you in the table. So that was kind of a one-off there. This is not a good team over their full body of work. I guess you could say the same for us. Long way to go, though, and you're at home here in the heat, kind of a short week. I think you got to get – you really have to get this one, especially thinking that you could have Jimmy. You could have CJ since both teams are at home this week. And everybody else, I think, relatively healthy. And who knows when we get Chris Garcia back as well. So this is a must-win for me.
I'm right there with you. You're just running out of time. And you're going to need some very strong performances going forward. I do want to say that from this last SKC game, I do applaud them for keeping up the fight up until that final minute to get that equalizer. However fortunate it was, we've just seen last year the difference between this team being able to execute in the penalty shootout in order to get that extra point. I mean, I don't even know how many PK shootouts we've been in this at this point in the season, but it is a substantial number. So, you know, if there was ever a time to turn this thing around and start, you got to do it now because you're just running out of time. And with the depth issues at the first team, having to pull a bunch of guys, rotating these dudes in and out, like you just haven't been able to find the continuity that they had last season. And I'm with you there. I will also pull the must-win lever with you and go ahead and say that we will get this job done. And we're going to get our revenge here. And I think we're going to do it in convincing fashion. So go ahead and give me a 3-1 win.
Nice. I got 2-0. So again, we don't care how you get it done, boys, but we need it. 3-1 for you, 2-0 for me. And to answer your kind of question there about how many shootouts this team has been in, 15 total matches played if we include that matchup in the Open Cup against 4-0 SC. 8 of 15. 8 of 15 going to penalty shootouts. So it's enough practice for a whole season. Let's start racking up some wins, boys.
Yeah, I was going to say earlier, we were like, well, this is good, practice to get into potentially the playoffs and have that experience. But that is not how it has taken shape thus far this season. So we're pulling for you, boys. Keep up the good fight, and let's go get this job done.
We'll close out today's episode with a little bit of the nonsense. First, a best ball update, E. And if we were not out already, we certainly are now. Just 19 points on the week from the North End podcast. Again, we have been without both of our keepers for what feels like the majority of the season. So a whole position group, we've been just taking 0 after 0 from 35 points for Texas Ring of Fire, so they make up 16 points on us in the spoon race. Still 38 points separating our two teams. And then about 140 points separating us from fourth now, because check this out. Verde All Day, Phil West sets a Verde Best Ball League weekly record, 77 points, to vault himself back into the title race, now just 9 points behind the Verde Pendant podcast for third. The Verde Pendant themselves, 32 points. We Are Us in TV, 40, and Moon Tower Soccer in first, still 939 total points, 35 points last week. This is now a 4-team race.
It's fun to look at from afar.
Yeah.
Way down there from where we're looking at there with our brothers, Texas Ring of Fire.
Exactly.
Look, man, we can't get that spoon.
No, we cannot. And that's why, again, transfer window draft coming up in about a month.
Yeah.
And that's our responsibility. We have to fortify our team enough to hold off. Because look, Messi comes back right after the League's Cup break. So it does not feel good to have the team chasing us with Leo Messi. So we'll keep obviously talking about best ball as we go here. Another scoring period here in the midweek. Another one coming up on the weekend. So we'll see how quick I can get to those scores. Potentially 2 score updates coming on Sunday's episode. And we'll close it out here, E, with the bets. And as we kind of left off on Sunday, another good week, 4 straight weeks of profit, E. That is our longest win streak in pod history. And it is the highest we have been, I believe, at any point of our betting escapades since the beginning of the 2023 season, plus 3.78 units on the week, plus 8.16 units on the season. And we're back at it. You can see the week 22 MLS picks posted late last night on the northendpodcast.com. A little short one here, just 2 teams taking actually 2 underdogs here this week. So maybe just feeling a little saucy after 4 straight winning weeks, getting a little bit riskier with it. Litany of goal scoring shouts there as well. So you can go check out the picks on the northendpodcast.com, match preview article, everything you need to know that you didn't already learn here about the NYCFC match coming up this Saturday. And of course, as the transfer window draws near, one thing we didn't actually talk about, we can just close the podcast with this. Talk about getting predictions right. Hot with the player personnel predictions as well. Monday, we did get confirmation from the club that Moussa Djitte and Austin FC have come to an agreement to mutually terminate the Moussa's contract, the remaining 6 months of his U22 initiative contract. So I am of 2 minds here. Number one, it was expected. This is what we needed to see. Opens up the U22 spot, frees up that cap space. So whether you see that spot filled in the summer window or this coming off season, just something that I think had to happen for all parties involved. And then on the other hand, man, I cannot tell you how many times I have watched the Djitte hat trick highlights this week. But for a guy who was here for a year and a half, the lasting impact that the Moose will have on our club will never be forgotten, especially by those who were in the stadium that night for the club's first ever hat trick. Man, you look at a team like the Timbers, right? In their MLS lifespan, which, 4 or 5 times longer than Austin FC at this point? No hat tricks in their club history. So Moussa Djitte, best of luck going forward, man. And it was a pleasure to cheer for the Moose while he was here. I can say that with confidence.
I mean, you said it perfectly. This is the business side of this, and it needed to be done from the roster standpoint. But he was just a wonderful player, human. Like, you know, he had that great big smile and the physicality he brought to the game, and everyone was always in his corner. He seemed like a wonderful, wonderful dude. And, you know, he has more important things in regard to his family and their well-being and everything. So I absolutely wish him all the best. I will definitely never forget the Moose. And I look forward to 10 years from now, couple MLS Cups in the old trophy case there, looking back on that hat trick and just having really fond memories of him and seeing him and being able to cheer for him in the verde and black colors. And, you know, just wish him the absolute best wherever he goes next. And just so grateful for his time and just wanted to say thank you to the Moose.
So, of course, you can find the updated roster picture, salary cap picture at thenorthendpodcast.com. You go there, you click on cap sheets, all of that available for you. Anything else for you before we get out of here on episode 156?
Don't shoot off fireworks on the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. We can do it on the 4th. Y'all have a happy 4th. Other than that, looking forward to seeing everybody at the stadium. It's going to be fun, man. I'm ready for it.
Yep, I'm with you. And again, this is a pro pooch podcast, not Ricky Pooch. All of our pooches, right? Mooch Man, Wimby, everybody else's dogs. I second that. Let's shoot off our fireworks on the actual holiday.
Just one day. Come on. Just one day. That's all we ask.
And have a happy 4th, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. We will do the same, and we'll see you back here on Sunday for another edition of the North End Podcast, recapping the first team's matchup against NYCFC, recapping the second team's matchup against Real Monarchs, talking about everything else that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. And we'll see you on Sunday. Until then, he's E. And I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.